First of all, congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you.
You're welcome. First of all, I have to say, just like great title. I know it's pulled directly from what uh Tracy says towards the end of the film, but like I saw that title so many times before I even got around to seeing the film, and I even like I put it on my like predictions of like before the shortlist came out, and I was just like, I just know it's going to be there. So I have to say that I've seen this movie a couple of times. Um, the first time I saw it, I felt like it played so much like a thriller that I was like physically uncomfortable. And then this last time that I watched it, I really tapped into the real humanity that exudes from it. I showed it to my husband last night. He's a neonatologist, so he deals a lot with preemie babies and families. And he was like, when it was over, he was just like sitting there. So sorry, I just launched into a huge compliment fest on the phone front. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Well,
Sorry.
we love a compliment fest.
Yeah,
And
that's why I'm here. It's 20
thank you.
minutes of me just telling you what I think about the movie. Um, I wanted to start at the very beginning of the film just because I don't know where this popped into my head, but for some reason it struck me how dark it is. I feel like if I wasn't looking for what this building is, I probably would pass it and not almost even know what it is if I wasn't looking for a sign. And I kept thinking, and I don't know where this popped into my head of that famous quote, "It's always darkest before the dawn."
Yeah.
Um, and that could be applied to numerous things for this film. And I guess I wanted to know the beginning of this feels very stealth. The notion of Tracy going into these rooms and just turning on the lights, and she's just like, somebody could be hiding in here. That really unsettled me every single time I've seen it. So I guess orienting us into this film, what was important for the both of you?
So I think I'll start with this film was meant to be representative of a day in the life. And we
Mm-hmm.
had done research for about a year, along with our producer, Amber Fares, trying to find a story that was new and kind of a
Mm.
vehicle into the issue that we hadn't seen before. And this is again, we're talking about the Dobbs decision when Roe versus Wade fell at the federal level, which SOB Productions, Soledad O'Brien's company, knew that was going to happen.
Mm.
So they really wanted to tell a story about the aftermath. And this clinic, I think, ended up being one of the places we went to research. Christalyn lives in the same city where
Mm.
the clinic is. And so for us, Tracy ended up being such an interesting vehicle. It was something we felt like we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Again, the staff, but particularly Tracy, what does it mean to be on the front lines of this, literally of this battle, which some people think is like a holy war? What does it mean day in and day out to have to defend women's right to reproductive care and reproductive justice, right? So this is the angle that interested us, representative of a day in the life. And Christalyn was the first on the ground at the clinic.
And when I
Mm.
arrived, Tracy sort of took us through her day, and her what you see is her actual day. And I was just like, wow, so you don't feel scared, you feel okay to be here. It's a very vulnerable situation. But she's like, this is my job. This is what I have to do to
Mm.
make sure that everyone else can arrive safely. And so, and she started with a prayer as you see in the film, and I was just like, okay, this is a very interesting dynamic and approach to this film.
Also, we were interested too in the dynamic between her and the protesters, because the protesters are outside, all men, if I can point
Mm-hmm.
out, weaponizing religion against the women who are, again, trying to simply get healthcare services. And Tracy is on the inside, technically practicing the same faith, but with a completely different perspective. So that to us was also fascinating because there was just organically the religious aspect. The protesters are there day in and day out, so
Hmm.
that noise is just kind of is a constant wall of sound that everyone has to deal with. And Tracy is on the inside praying for everyone's safety. So that to us, again, we thought it was a new angle in for people who may be struggling with
Yeah.
religion when it comes to this topic and a way to maybe change hearts and minds. Tracy was kind of a new hope.
Yeah, there's the I was gonna ask you about the voices. The voices are just like permeating the walls, and it just felt I was so maybe that's what I latched onto the first time I watched it, where it just felt like it was like threatening to seep through the bricks of this building. And it's just sort of I felt so uneasy just hearing them. And then the fact that Tracy says very early in the film, she's like, "Oh, that sounds like Doug." Oh, like she knows who they are. It's really um that was I've never seen anything like that before. And something that I have to say that I also appreciate is that like with a lot of documentaries, sometimes you hear critics of any type of documentary, they were like, well, I would like to see the other side of something. And I was like, they're both right here. There's inside the building, outside the building. It's all very present. So I think that's something that I also loved about how numerous points of view at play here. Yes.
And I just have to
Um,
say that, being on the ground and hearing the protesters, the first time I was there, I was sitting in the front office, and to hear how loud and how piercing they are, I was like, we
mhm.
have to keep that in. Like, they're just so that people really understand. I'm glad that it impacted you that way because it is something that is permeating throughout the day as these voices screaming,
God.
you know, sometimes the wrong scriptures, and talking about Black Lives Matter and Black genocide. So it's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Was that something like when you heard it outside, you didn't expect it to be heard inside?
Um, I was shocked when I heard it so clearly
So
in.
clearly. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Because usually you can hear like, well, it sounds muffled, and I was
Hmm.
because it has actual big speakers and a bullhorn. So, and it's not that far, that many yards apart from the sidewalk and from the building. So it
Yeah.
is intense.
And we kept that in the edit. Like we intentionally, because we could have maybe tried to clean up the sound and got rid of them. We were like, no, no, no. You
Mm.
have to, we have to hear them. So we understand what this again, this team is going through, the staff is going through, but also the clients, as Tracy calls them, they are just constantly, it's like this assault, you
Yeah.
know, and it's purposeful. It's purposeful
Yeah.
strategy.
And I mean also like we are introduced to the people, the protesters outside pretty early on. So I'm glad it's not like not glad, but you know what I mean. It's they are a presence that is their job as they see is to make themselves known and to affect the people going inside. And I just can't believe that. Yeah, hearing it so clearly, just I can't imagine what it would be like to hear that throughout one entire continuous long day dealing with something like that.
But you pointed out something also very funny, which is that they know each other. So like
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, there's this, they are meant to be these menacing messengers of God, and here comes Tracy talking about that sounds like Doug. Like she knows who they are and
And
she
he
knows
looks right at us too. Like he
yeah,
looks.
she knows their backstories. And she said that she was like, they're human. These people are
Mm-hmm.
human beings. They are flawed. They have no right to cast judgment,
Yeah.
So I think that is the part that again, she sort of whatever power they have, she sort of dismisses it with those
Mm.
simple, the fact that she's familiar with them and you
Yeah.
know, they don't ultimately they don't diminish her power in any way.
No, I'm the amount of focus that she has, and like you said, she's there to do a job. I felt very um comforted around her. Her presence, it just exudes something that I can't really articulate, but there's something, this strength and determination and intelligence that I just really latched onto. Um, I wanted to ask about speaking to the other folks that are in the clinic. I had forgotten from my first watch about speaking to the woman who just labeled the doctor. No names or anything, which great. I was just curious. I had forgotten about that point of view of thinking about how healthcare workers, probably because it stuck out to me more because my husband is a healthcare worker. We live in Ohio, which Ohio is a pretty we live in a liberal pocket surrounded by, as I like to say, surrounded by a shitstorm all the time. Um, and anytime I'm outside the city limits, I'm just, um, but I guess, what was important to you in terms of showing that? Because showing the doctor, showing the person who is, talking on the phone, um, to prospective clients, because I love that is in there to also break up the tension, but to also give us this new perspective that I feel like we haven't really seen before, talking about how um, doctors who are trying to provide healthcare for these women are also just really under attack.
But we wanted to make this film feel immersive in the day and
Mm-hmm.
the life. And so to really, in order to capture all of that, you have to show what actually takes place and to show that this is a healthcare facility. And I
Yeah.
think that was something that was really important for us to show. And also because Georgia changed from a 15-week to a 6-week ban after the Dobbs decision. So we wanted to also, sort of implicate that in the film as well. That's why we talk about the heartbeat and have the
Mm-hmm.
sonogram technician talk about it and the importance of it.
I think too, in showing that Tracy can obviously give you the security perspective, but we needed every other person to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the other pieces of the puzzle, like everything they have to deal with every day. Like you see the doctor and one of the managers talking about whether or not there's someone who has an anomaly and what should they do, right? Like you hear these women are making, and it's because it is a women-run clinic and
Mm-hmm.
mostly black women, but you hear them making life and death decisions, minute to minute, and but also ones that could lose them their job, right? Or could
Mm-hmm.
put them in jail. Like so there's kind of the pressure they're under is enormous, and only by showcasing sort of all the different aspects, all the different workers, can you really get a full picture of how they all have to work together and what they're dealing with, the stress they're dealing with. And yet they do it day after day after day. They are fearless, they are
Mm-hmm.
brave, they smile at each other. I would be losing my mind, but they are just, like I said, these are the bravest, some of the bravest women we know.
Yeah, I think there's that brief section where you hear one of the women say like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" or "What are you doing this weekend?" And I love that that's in there because it just shows how like we have to have conversations like that amid
Almost.
everything. It's how normal life works. Um, and also like I don't know, I mean, the human body is also very complicated, and I feel like, every situation is shocking to maybe the men standing outside with their signs and their bullhorns. It was just like this is not just the clinic is not just doing one thing. There's something about the variety of perspectives that we have in here, the variety of jobs that we see in this film, that really just hits home, that I feel like a lot of people are misinformed when it comes to protesting stuff like that. So I
And
just appreciated
also,
that.
I feel like, the protesters have a narrow mind about it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand the full picture. That's why education is so important,
Mm-hmm.
to really understand the full picture of care. Abortion at this particular clinic is only one service they provide. So by you, protesting and sort of creating this chaotic scene outside, you also are impacting like how these women are getting any healthcare provision. So
Yeah.
I think something that we wanted to also bring to the forefront.
I
Yeah.
think there's one of the women in the film, the sonogram technician says, we're stuck on the A word. Like
Mhm.
Mm,
there's so many other needs, but yet we are just, you know what I mean? Everyone is focused on this, and 25 million women have lost access since the Dobbs decision. So that is insane when you think about how much of that population now does.
hmm
And it could be, again, it could not be just be abortion access. It could be access to many, many other needed things. So I think, yeah, making sure we showed a holistic picture of the clinic was really important because
Yeah.
people just, they say abortion and they think that's all these clinics do. They do so much more.
I remember when the decision came down and like when people were, just saying flat out, it was like, well, Planned Parenthood doesn't just do this. It provides, all a variety of procedures in healthcare to all the folks who go inside of it. And I saw like in real time and from in real life, like it was mostly men, but they were just like, wait, they do that, they do this, and it was like, okay.
Planned Parenthood.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
It makes you think it's only one thing. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And
um
unfortunately, there's been like what, 50 last year there were 50 clinics that closed down Planned
wow.
Parenthood. There's underserved people and people in rural communities. And so what happens to those women? They're going to have to travel just to go have a mammogram
hmm
or your regular gynecological checkups. So it's really a disservice to women in general. Healthcare is a human rights. It's not just a reproductive right. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
yeah. Well, I have to say before I let you both go, well, first of all, thank you for letting me ramble. My very inarticulate, like, oh, but I had forgotten until I watched it again last night. Like I said, the I mentioned the darkness at the beginning, just like literal darkness, and the way that the camera kind of lingers on Tracy opening the door and the way that the camera is flooded with light, that really knocked me out upon a rewatch. And I know it's like a practical thing, like it's the end of the day, and the sun may be going down, but it that
No,
really
it was intentional.
oh
To-
god, it gave
I
me
mean,
that
but
made me
also
feel so
her
good at the end of
to
it.
have
Yeah.
that be the end, like
hmm
she kind of we were it's sort of it's meant to be a euphemism for her
Yeah.
prayer, and that she's, her faith, where here she is inside the clinic praying to protect all these women, whereas outside there's these men condemning, and she opens that door and steps out, exactly as you said, into the light. And we wanted that to hold people, that there is a different path. There's a path, and it is equally a path of light, where you can choose acceptance and choose tolerance and
hmm
choose love and choose,
Like
to
listen
protect
to people, like
us.
God forbid. Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I think I'm not was not raised Christian and don't know very little about it, but I think it's what I imagine Jesus would have wanted.
Yeah. I wasn't either. I actually as soon as anytime I heard Tracy talk, I was like, that's everything she says. That's the perspective I want. That's um anytime that she prayed, I felt like I was listening so deeply to what she was saying. Um, okay. Well, thank you so much
Yes,
for
I'm
oh,
sorry.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you, Joey.
I was gonna say, with Tracy, I feel like she comes from a place of pure love and full heart. So I think that's why people interpret what she's saying so differently and not as a very Christian thing.
Mm,
Because that's why I call it faith fueled, because she is that way. Like she is more of a bigger, like, beyond the Christian belief in a way,
yeah.
or a bigger understanding of Christianity, I should say.
Yeah.